So Susan is the CEO of Susan Katz Advantage, and she's known for helping businesses drive extraordinary growth. As a business growth advisor, Susan helps individuals and organizations align. They focus on revenue generating opportunities and create strategic changes to achieve unlimited and lasting growth. She's worked with a wide range of individuals and organizations, including our BBB, the Baltimore Ravens, Under Armour, and a wide range of service-based businesses. Prior to starting her business, Susan was in executive management with two major publishing firms where she was responsible, yet again, for revenue and profit growth. She's the author of Create Your Dream Job, Change Your Mindset, Change Your Future, where she shares her secrets and practical tips for creating and fulfilling a meaningful future. In addition to all of her business accomplishments, a little known but nonetheless fun fact about Susan is that she was a synchronized swimmer in high school and college. So always good to have something to fall back on, right, Susan?
Right, exactly. Except now I can't hold my breath that long.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to turn this over to Susan, and who'll lead us for the next 45 minutes or so.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joanne. There's something about hearing all about yourself. One is it makes you feel old because you realize how much time has gone by and all the things you've done. Final request for people to turn on their cameras, even if you're not, I see Jim Reese, he's got his hat on. We are going to be interacting. So even if you're not well put together this morning, thank you, Mary Kate. We're fine with that. We want to see you because we're going to be doing interaction. And Clay, I meant to mention before, let's keep the groups, depending on even or odd number, let's keep them to 3 or 4 people since we shortened the time when we do breakout. Okay. So I am going to screen share. Thank you all for being here this morning. We'll start with this one. And it makes me a little crazy that I can't see everybody. So I'll just be looking at the camera. If you have questions, for now, put them into the chat. We will open up after. We're going to do 2 breakout sessions, and we will open up, unmute everybody. So if people want to participate, well, I want people to participate. So what we're going to focus on today is we're changing your story. And the story we're talking about is your mindset story. What are the things that you tell yourself that either help propel you forward in your business or keep you stagnant or set you backwards? Because we all have stories. I'll share a little bit of my story as we get into this. So we're going to discuss one of the most important things is how the habits that you change, whether they're mental habits or physical habits, that will help you to be successful, how to create a little bit about creating habit change. And then you've all had success. Everybody on this call has had some success. So we're going to break out and give you a chance to talk about what are some of the habits you've created that have caused success for you. And then finally, what is your story? What are the things I'll help you to identify, and we'll work with one person who will overcome some of their limiting beliefs. So that's what we're going to be talking. And I know Peter did a session on story and telling stories. So this is a different version. We thought this would be a nice extension to what Peter did previously. So, whoops, I've got to get into slide view. That would be helpful. And out of presenter. There we go. All right, let me move this. The joys of there we go. The joys of virtual, because we end up talking to ourselves. So we already did this. All right. There's a really good book that I read recently. In fact, I've got it sitting right. Oh, you might not see it right here because I've got my virtual screen on. If you haven't had a chance to read Tiny Habits, great book, easy read. BJ Fogg is a researcher at Stanford, and for the last 20 years, he has been researching habit change. And his premise is that when you choose to change a habit, whatever that habit is around finances or food or your business, whatever it is, You want to start with the smallest possible change, the smallest, very smallest possible change. So for instance, one of the examples that he gives is that he wanted to start doing push-ups. So a lot of times we think, well, I want to do 15 push-ups a day. He decided, because it's important to associate it with something else that you do during the day, he decided that he would start with 2 push-ups after he went to the each time he went to the bathroom and he came out, he would do 2 push-ups. Because what happens is when you do a small number, all of a sudden you build positive outcomes and positive momentum, and you begin doing more. And I forget what he's up to at this point. Another example that he gave was he realized when he was in the dentist's office, he was resisting flossing his teeth. Sounds very silly. And he was, because he researches habit change, he thought, why am I resisting it? And he realized his teeth are very tight and he has a hard time with the floss. So he went out, bought 15 different flosses till he found one that was easy to use. And then he committed to flossing 1 tooth every day. Of course, what happens is you floss one and then you're going to move on and floss more. And he associated it with something, I don't know if it was brushing his teeth. So those are the kinds of small changes. And that's the context that I want you to keep in the back of your mind. It's the small changes that will lead to big results and greater success. So we all have, I mentioned before, we all have habits that have made us successful in the past. And what I'd like to do in the first, or like to have you do in the first breakout room, is to have you discuss among each other what habits have made you, or what has made you successful. Think about habits. So for instance, one of the habits when I started my business, I didn't know anybody in Baltimore. So a habit I created was to meet. Now this was probably bigger than I might have started with if I'm going back to small habits, but one habit I ended up creating was meeting with 10 people for coffee or for lunch or for breakfast a week, because I knew I needed to get to meet a lot of people. And that was an important habit to building the business. So Clay is going to put us in breakout rooms of 3 or 4 people. We're going to give you 7 minutes and we want you to share. So each take, if it's 3 of you, take 2 minutes each. If it's 4 of you, about 1.5 minutes, just to identify what are the habits that have made you successful. Then we'll come back and we'll have some people share with us what they talked about in the group. Sounds good. All right, so let's hear from a few people. What were some of the success habits that you discovered in your conversations? This is audience participation. So I can't see everybody. I don't know, Clay, if you can. Go ahead and either unmute yourself or just speak up so we can hear what you talked about.
So this is Jim Reese speaking, in case you don't recognize my voice, Susan. You've seen me before, so you know what I look like. You don't need to see me now, but a lot of talk about lists, a lot of talk about preparing for meetings, getting to know the people you're going to be meeting with, what makes them tick, why they work where they do. Making notes in your, in a notebook as you prepare for the next day and who you're going to meet with, and calendar blocking. So all good habits, work-related habits. And although I was the only one who mentioned the sort of physical habits like stretching or walking or standing and moving, I'm sure the other 3 ladies in my group would have agreed they probably do the same thing, because we're all conscious of not getting stuck in our office chairs for too long.
Yeah, and physical movement is really important to changing mindset as well. I have another, I won't be covering it today, but the importance of changing your physiology in order to create a different mindset. So that's great. Good. Thank you, Jim. Who else? Let's hear from.
Thank you, Jim, for recapping our entire group. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, who was that? Make sure to identify yourself because I can't see you.
Oh, that was Holly.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Holly.
This is Merlin.
Mm-hmm.
And so my group consists of myself, Sherry, and Amy. Now, Sherry has developed this good success habit of starting working from home virtually, she starts on time and she ends on time. And I think to make sure she separates her work time from home time, and that has proven to be very successful for her. Amy is unfocused, being focused on what she's doing for her client. And for me is taking the shift start. When I first started my business, I was focusing on getting clients, but then I took the shift off myself. I took the focus off myself and started concentrating on my clients. What can I do to add value to my clients and
Great.
help them? And there was a big change once I changed that attitude.
Yeah, that's great. That really was important, especially during the beginning of COVID. And then that whole notion of setting a work day, because when you're working from home, it's so easy to just work continuously. Great. Thank you, Merlin. One more. Let's hear from one more person group. And I took the screen share off so that I could see people.
This is Katie. So our group, we had some procrastinators, including myself. We had some people who gave some great tips for productivity. And then I guess I can go through the list and I can't remember her name. I'm so sorry, but she talked about understanding who her coworkers are or the people she manages and things that they like. So she actually has her employees fill out a little list of candies, books they like, and then that helps from a rewarding standpoint, helping understand who they are, and I guess treating, great behavior, great things like that. And then from a productivity standpoint, we talked a little bit about Power Sheets. It's by a company, Cultivate What Matters, and it really helps you stay focused, helps you with long-term and short-term goal planning. And then I gave some tips for productivity. Again, being a procrastinator, I have a tendency of, if I have to meet a deadline, starting to actually invite up another person on a calendar invite, even if it's not an actual meeting, because knowing that they're on that deadline, I have to make sure it's accomplished so I don't let them down.
Oh, that's a great procrastinator tip. And then I love the idea of recording what people like. It's more than just birthdays. Yeah, that's great. All right, I am going to go back to screen sharing again. And we're going to move into, so that was the really positive side. And then we all have limiting beliefs. The limiting beliefs are generally the easiest way to describe them is that self-talk or the excuses that you tell yourself. And I liked these pictures because it's like a ball and chain, pulling you back, or you're having to drag it along. They're false beliefs or thoughts that you believe are the truth, and they keep you from pursuing your goals and desires. So for instance, Katie, who I know, so I can pick on her, defines herself as a procrastinator. And even just in the language alone, that creates a limiting belief. And she's obviously found ways to overcome that. Changing the language would be another way. Perhaps I look for ways to help keep myself on time, as opposed to defining yourself as a procrastinator. And they have a negative impact. They often keep you from moving forward. So they're thoughts that are ingrained in your brain, and they often, generally, limiting beliefs, they start in childhood. It's something someone tells you. When I lived in New York and went to school and started reading, where I went to school, they wanted to hold me back on reading, which was really interesting. And then we moved, and they wanted to put me into an advanced class on reading. Talk about two very different. So had I stayed in New York before we moved to Connecticut, I probably would have started to see myself as not a very good reader, as opposed to, or not very smart, as opposed to we moved, and that experience gave me a very different view of myself. So a lot of our limiting beliefs develop in the ages between, say, 3 and 8, when we have the cognitive ability to really hear what people are saying, and then we choose to adopt what they say because we don't know any better. So a I'll show you how this can work. Back when I started, I'll use myself as an example. Back when I started my coaching business in 2008, my limiting belief, ultimately, the underlying limiting belief was I had no value to add. Limiting beliefs come in all different shapes and sizes, but they're usually much deeper than something that's a surface thing like, you know, I can't do X, Y, or Z. And so I was working with a coach, and what the coach said to me was, you really need to be getting out to speak. I was networking, I was meeting all kinds of people, I was coaching, and he said, you really need to get out to speak. And I kept resisting him. And I was resisting him because I had this limiting belief that I had no value to add. I had worked for a corporation. I had spoken to the CEO of a $2 billion corporation in my former job. I was worried now that, as you know, I had become this coach, executive coach, and I had no value to add. And so the thoughts I developed as a result of that was people would think I was stupid. They wouldn't get anything out of it if I spoke. And how I felt when I had those thoughts in my head was nervous and scared. And how it impacted my actions was I avoided looking for speaking engagements, which was going to be an important way to grow my business. And the results were that I was limiting my business growth. So that's what I call bottom of the line thinking. I was engaged in bottom of the line thinking. So in order to change my results, this move into top of the line, I worked. Oh, and the other thing was I had said to my coach, you know, I'm nervous because I want people to, you know, I'm exaggerating a little, but people to come flocking to work with me when I speak. And I'm worried that they're not going to do that. And he said, well, rather than using that as a result when you speak, how about you think about, and I think it was Merlin said this, how about you think about what value do you have to add? How much value are you providing when you're speaking, rather than being concerned about whether or not people came to you to work with you? So I thought that made sense. So I developed a result. My result had something to do with number of clients. And one of the tools to getting there was to go out and do speaking. So I don't remember, it was a long time ago, but it was X number of clients was my result, if you go to the top of the line, that I wanted to change. So I took 3 actions. I'm a big believer in 3s. One action was to take the talk that I did, and actually I developed this talk as a result of getting out and speaking more, and practice it with my younger son, who was a teenager at the time, because I knew he would give me good feedback. So that was one action. My second action was to read a book called Trust Me by Nick Morgan, Nick was a political speechwriter, and he's written a book about things that you can do to be a more effective speaker. So I thought that was important. And the last thing I did, so that I wouldn't I wouldn't look at any kind of attachment of clients, is I picked an audience that wasn't my target client base. It was a group of administrative professionals. I happened to know some of the people in the group, and I went and talked to them. And then I went and I did that talk. And at the end of the talk, somebody came up to me and said, "You've just changed my life. My husband died, and you've shown me how I can now move forward, because I've been really stuck and not doing anything." And that was the value add that was so incredibly critical to me. Once that happened, now my feelings were, I wasn't nervous or scared. I was feeling pretty darn good and wanting to go out and do more talks. And I was thinking, I really can add value. Even though I knew I did it one-to-one, I wasn't sure I could do it in a group. And so the new story and the empowering belief that I created, and I've crafted this over time, is that I leave people feeling energized, hopeful, and seeing new opportunities for success. That's a very different story than I have no value to add. So we all have a choice for which story we allow to live in our head. And what we are going to do now is give you another maximum 7 minutes, because then I want to give somebody an opportunity to work through their limiting belief. Limiting beliefs, these are some examples. No, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough. There's Katie, with your procrastination, there's something deeper than that. I'm not sure where it goes. I don't have what it takes. I'm not educated. I've had people who haven't finished college and they feel that, and yet have had tremendous success, and still feel I'm not educated enough. I've tried everything. I'm afraid of trying and failing. We all have limiting beliefs. To this day, my son, who has gone through a lot of my coaching, will, if I state a limiting belief, he will identify it for me. So we all have them. So what we're going to do is go into a breakout room. We're going to make this breakout room 6 minutes, because I want to bring you back, hear what some of them are, and give somebody an opportunity to have a breakthrough. I want you to identify and share, so make sure you take turns. What's your primary limiting belief? And I know it may take a little digging to get to it. What is your primary limiting belief? So Clay, take it away. 6 minutes, breakout rooms. Right, so let's hear from some folks what some of the limiting beliefs were. Peter, I want to hear what your limiting belief was, because I know you'll play with me.
Well, mine was I can't sell.
Ah, okay.
Which really is, I don't like selling. And I've, as a theater person, I in order to avoid being a waiter or a bartender, I learned how to sell things for other people, and got okay at it. But realized as time went by that I just don't like this. I don't want to do this. And now that I'm a consultant, my whole life is around business development.
Okay.
And
All
trying
right.
to frame it differently so that it's not selling, it's teaching.
Okay.
Or some
Okay.
other useful thing, developing talent, teaching, helping people fulfill their purpose, helping people clarify their purpose,
okay, great. I want to hear from a few people, and then Peter, I may choose you as a volunteer. I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
Okay. Who else? This is an
I was
opportunity to get.
elected the speaker of our group, so we had a lot of perfectionistic theme going on in our group. Myself being one of them, in that, just not good enough, not enough in general, for whatever reason. Then not smart enough came up as well, just not being admitted to the higher level classes, the AP classes in high school, whatever, just feeling less than because of that. So that was kind of our theme of getting like the not good enough, or not, the perfectionistic part is getting analysis paralysis and not being able to move on because we just get stuck in it not being enough.
Okay, not being enough. That is a core underlying limiting belief. Yeah. Was not that you need to volunteer them, Sherry. Anybody in that group want to tell me who came up with not good enough?
Well, I can be a representative of our little group. So we talk about self-doubt, but Peter already talked about that. Peter was in my group. So we talk about self-doubt, feeling inefficient, and feeling incompetent.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Our group had a similar vein, the fake it till you make it kind of a theme of, boy, I'm really not good enough for this job, but then yes, you are. And they promote you, and so feeling intimidated, about things that you take on, and another person in our group, really questioning, am I really helping people in my job? I'm not sure if what I'm doing is really helping what I'm being paid to do.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's a common one as well. So isn't it interesting how so many of you all had such similar limiting beliefs? We don't generally go around expressing them. Hang on, let me go back to screen share. And we're going to take you through. So what I need right now is a volunteer, somebody who would like to have a breakthrough around their I'm not good enough, lot of self-doubt. I'm going to stop the screen share so I can see who are some people that volunteer. All right. So if nobody volunteers, then I'm going to pick on Peter, because I know Peter. Mary Kate, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, sure, I'll volunteer.
Awesome. I know Mary Kate. We do a lot of communicating together. We've known each other a long time. Okay, that sounds great. This is an opportunity to have a breakthrough. So let me find my, and I'm letting you know that for the first time, normally I do this with a flip chart. This is the first time that, and I've got to get speaker view so I can see you. So let me go to speaker view. This is the first time I'm doing it with a spreadsheet because it's virtual. Mary Kate, why don't you tell me what is your underlying limiting belief? And I'm going to do some writing or typing as you talk.
Sure. So I don't think it's a fear, but it's definitely a belief, like an underlying belief that I either don't deserve to make a lot of money or can't visualize myself making a lot of money. And what I mean by a lot of money is, being financially free by a certain age. And I don't know if it's like, I know I have the work ethic of a Clydesdale, but I can't, I can't get there in my head that I'm going to have the lifestyle or maybe even the materialistic things that are in my brain that other people have. I'm not trying to compare out. I think it comes from something in my family way back when. Money is rude. You don't talk about it. And it wasn't until my probably 30s that I actually started working with a financial planner and seeing possibilities. So yeah, I guess I'm still stuck with that a little bit. Like, I just can't imagine it having money.
Yeah. And is it tie in at all to any of the, I'm not good enough for it, I'm not smart enough, any of those?
There's definitely a sense of fear of not being successful or fear of failure since I had to shut down the business of 10 years in the fall. So there's something going on with that, I'm sure. Like, I did this for 10 years. Why didn't I make any money? Right. I mean, a lot of people can tell me why, but.
Okay. All right. So I am going to put a not good enough around that fear of failure and some of the thoughts that you have when you are, I'm going to be very clear, when you're in this part of the story mindset, what are some of the thoughts you have? I've captured a few. You want to be financially free by a certain age. Money is rude. You talked about that. What else do you think about?
Maybe that we'll always be stuck, that we'll just always constantly be a little fearful that we're paycheck to paycheck or not have the things for our kid that we had, from our parents, or, not be able to pay in full for her education, things like that, I guess.
Okay, good. And when you are in this mindset, because I know you're not always in this mindset, and you're having these thoughts, how do you feel?
Certainly a lot of self-doubt, sense of failure, lack of purpose, ill self-confidence, not just like about my brain, but about my body. Like, that comes in. Sorry, is this a therapy session, you guys?
No, what I will tell you is, as you go, I appreciate you being open and vulnerable, and everybody's processing their own stuff as you're going through this. So you are doing everyone a service. So thank you.
Okie dokie.
Anything else? Do you feel frustrated or?
Yes, like sort of like chomping at the bit, like, okay, but what's next? How do I get there? How do I conquer my goals? Like, and I'm constantly impatient for like more information or more resources or more what I can do. So I flood myself with things like the Cultivate What Matters power sheets or the DMO work or the listing or the, coming from a background of productivity. I know what to do, but I don't necessarily do the right things every day, certainly, or even every week. Like, I put others above myself a lot. My kid, the new puppy, my husband's sleep because he still has to go to work every day, right? All those little things are really interesting in this last year of having to be at home with everything we went through. So
that was my next question, is when you're in this mindset, how does it impact your actions? So you don't do the right things every day. You put others above yourself, and what else happens?
So things like over drinking, lack of sleep, too much digital time, not enough time. Like, I was doing really well on a walking every day streak, but then we got a new puppy and we can't take the new puppy out until the boosters. So then we had to put in a fence, right? So it's like, there's a constant something that gets in the way of me accomplishing my own goals. Even as simple as the 30-minute walk a day. That was an easy thing before we got the puppy, right? And it will get easy again. This is temporary because I can walk the puppy. But for
Okay.
the last 3 weeks, that was one of the things that definitely, you know, set me back. So,
And how is this impacting your results?
well, I was just looking at my March goals and definitely did not get to the weight loss goal or the money goal. But I conquered some other ones, like, you know, more quality time with John and Pryor, my now 7-year-old, and the fact that we have been trying to get a dog for so long and adopt, and that worked out. And we took a trip for the first time in a year. So there's some other really big, wonderful things, and we both got vaccinated. Yay! So
yay!
There's some big good things have happened too. I just tend to, I guess, focus on the negative.
Well, and the financial ones are the ones that are not happening. The weight loss and the financial are the two really important ones to you, and those aren't happening. Okay, so we're gonna, I don't leave people in the bottom of the line thinking, we move up to the top of the line. So in the next 12 months, I want you to pick one thing that that you can also look back and say it happened or didn't happen, that you would be super excited about to achieve.
The money.
So is it a certain amount of money? You don't have to share it with the group here if you don't want.
Yeah, I teamed up with Juice Plus. Never been in the direct marketing and direct sales world, but I would like to be earning way more than what I was taking from my own business last year. So I would like to be seeing at least $2,000 to $3,000 a month by mid-year this year.
Okay. Oh, what happened to it? I must not be wrapping. I did something. Take more from current biz versus last biz. Earn 3K. Okay, good. So in the next 30, 60, 90 days, what are the top 3 small things that you need to begin doing or do to lead you towards this 12-month? What are, and you know, break them down into some small things.
So weekly, I have a tool here called the Daily Method of Operations Planner. And it's basically a fancy list with a template. You can't see that. But basically it's laying out Monday through Saturday, exactly what I need to do to reach my goals. So that entails hitting, you know, connecting with 2 new people, following up with people that I've been in process or conversation with, you know, making sure I'm taking care of the people that have joined us and taking the new nutrition or partnering with the company, social media postings, making sure I'm attending all the Zooms and trainings that I can.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you for a second because there's a lot on there. So if there were only one piece that you were going to focus on, because clearly you're not doing enough of it, what would be the main thing that you would focus on?
To make sure that I'm sticking to my goals of following up with people every week, like a specific number of people. So for me, that's roughly, I'd say 20, let's say 25 to make it a round number, 25 people a week to make sure I'm continuing the conversations.
Okay, great. I should have moved this up here. Okay, what's number 2?
To be more consistent with social media posting across all the platforms.
Wait, let me just get this in here.
Because we all know consistency is the key there.
So how many social media posts per week?
So I'm aiming to do 3 stories and 5 posts. And I'm one of the lazies that connects my Insta and my Facebook. So I just, as much as I can, I plug one into both. I don't use Twitter, and I'm not much of a YouTuber. So I'm really just focused on Insta and Facebook right now.
Okay, and your third action?
To continue with my, what I call like learning, training, personal growth. So when I do walk,
big. So pick a small thing.
So, okay. So when I walk, I turn on Audible and I listen to like a business book or a self-help book or something like that.
Okay. So do you have a goal for how many per day, per week?
Like at least three a week.
3 self-help self-help
Books or
got
whatever. Just say books or,
books, podcasts,
yeah.
etc. per week. Okay. Now, assuming when you do, does this feel reasonable and manageable?
Totally.
Okay. And when will you start doing this?
Now.
Okay. When you do all of it on a weekly basis, how will you feel?
Awesome. Because I have done that. I just have been out of
Okay.
it like for a month.
Okay. And how else will you feel?
Empowered. Probably like physically way better. I mean, just clarity and energy wise and
Okay. I'm going to move us along because we're going to run out of time here.
yeah.
What will you be thinking about?
After it's done, what's next? How to get to the next level.
Great. What's your empowering belief?
I have no idea. Can you tell me what it is?
Well, what makes you feel really, really good? Like the empowering belief, this is often difficult for people because it's like going back and finding, like, I knew I was really I was helping individuals. And I had to live in that. So what is it that you do that you're just, when you think about it, you light up and you're really good at?
When I connect one-on-one, usually by live phone call, with another woman, either from my past or my professional and personal, let's say, relationships in the past decade, my cup is super full when I get off the phone. I typically feel very good about being transparent, vulnerable, explaining where we are in our lives and wanting to know genuinely how they're doing. This last year was so insane for everyone that I feel like it's really important to connect live with a voice.
So would it be fair to say that you say to yourself, I'm great at building relationships?
Yeah.
Building relationships and connecting. You can play with this. I don't have the exact right answer for you.
Yeah.
We can play with this. And the key is to find an anchor, and Peter will understand this because in acting, I'm going to stop the share so I can see everyone as we get near the end. Peter understands that in order to make yourself cry or make yourself laugh, there's an anchor. So what you want to think about is an instance, and we can talk about it separately offline, is an instance where you felt so good. Mine was, I hadn't done a lot of speaking engagements. So I just thought about when my husband and I got married in Vegas by Elvis, because it made me smile. It made me feel good. I didn't focus on my limiting beliefs. So which story do you like better? The I'll never be financially successful, or I'm really great at relationships?
I definitely like I'm great at relationships better.
Yeah, so that's what you want to stay focused on, and we'll work on, think of something that's an anchor thought, that will get you into that mindset when you start dropping below the line. It's really critical. So I want to take a few, thank you, Mary Kate, for
Thank you.
participating. I'd like to get some reactions and insights from folks going as we went through the exercise. Peter, unmute, please.
I loved how on the limiting belief, you went across left to right on the spreadsheet, and then you went up and went backwards on the empowering belief. I don't know that that's designed. I don't know anything about your process, but it made so much sense to me that you get to the bottom part, the limiting and the results, and then you move up. And what better results would you like? Well, it's how, and you worked your way back to the core driver that, the thought. And I that's brilliant. I wrote that down. I'm going to borrow it.
Okay, you can borrow it.
For my own purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. I want people to. So
yeah, thank you.
What other insights?
I really love the idea of the bottom line thinking. That really kind of that's really stuck with me, that whole bottom line thinking. And again, how you've went from bottom line thinking to kind of probably top line thinking? Is there a particular name for the next level up?
Yeah, that's what I named it when I created that exercise. That exercise came from a number of different books I read. And so what I want to share screen, even though I can't see you. So what I'd like you, as we conclude, I'd like you to be in action. Let me just get visible to everyone. I'd like everybody to think about what will you commit to doing differently? What action will you take? Something small that you will commit to do differently as a result of being in this session. And real quickly, because I'm a believer in starting on time and ending on time, I'd like to hear from a few of you. Remember, being in action is key. Small habit changes lead to big results. And let me stop share, hold on. I'd like to hear from just a couple of you. What was most valuable about the session? So go ahead and just unmute yourself and pop in.
The whole,
Go ahead, Holly.
okay, yeah, this is Holly. I just thought the whole idea of a limiting belief, taking the time to step back and say, what is it? You know, a lot of us you just keep moving on and you don't really identify what is actually limiting to yourself, and then moving to an empowering belief. And that last exercise would not have been near as empowering, I guess to use that word, if you had started out and asked her what was her limiting belief, and then, well, what's your empowering belief? You know, where do you want to get? You have to go through the circle to get there. That was amazing.
You got to work through the muck to get to the good stuff. Yeah. All right. What else? What else was most valuable?
My takeaway is baby steps. You can't do everything all at once. You've got to take baby steps, and in order to create some success for yourself and feel good about that success, and then build on that success.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you took that away. And notice I even stopped her. She was trying to do too much as we were going. So I'm looking for where Mary Kate went. I may not be able to see her on my screen. Oh, there you are. You're right in the center of my screen. Last one, and then we'll conclude. It's 9:30. Last one for takeaway or most valuable.
It was just really making us think about, you know, everything and not giving us the answer. You know, there's one point where Mary Kate was like, I don't really know what my empowering thought is. Can you help me out a little bit? And you posed the question and just really made her, you know, think about like, well, what makes you happy? Like, what are you thinking that makes you feel good? And I think that that's something that, you know, we should be working through almost every day on a daily basis to just sort of get to that level.
Yeah, getting people to come up with their own. And I would have, if I had her individually, there's a lot more I would have done with her. And thank you all for letting me experiment with my spreadsheet, which I will send Mary Kate. Normally I rip it off of the flip chart and give it to someone because I don't keep other people's stories. So I will send that. I got to fix it up a little bit. And then you and I can work on your anchor thought together. So always choose your story, choose which one you want to live in, and be in action around what you can do to create different results. So thank you very much. Clay will be sending out, or Joanne or Ashley will be sending out the slides. And I put my contact information at the bottom of the last slide if anybody needs to reach out and find out anything else. So thank you all for taking an hour this morning out of your day. Appreciate it. Go forward and be in action and stay in that empowering belief.
Thank you so much, Susan.